Hello and welcome back to a brand new Pick a Side stream on BR Live. Today, we got something entertaining we're going to talk about. That's the NBA play-in predictions. In the East, maybe not so entertaining. We're going to go over that. But in the West, it's a wild, wild West out there.
Can you believe that we're already approaching the end of the NBA season? I feel like yesterday we were talking about December basketball, getting ready for the All-Star break, but now we're really approaching the end of the season. It's been a fun one, a lot of exciting events, but this play-in, it could be some of the most exciting parts of the season for sure.
The last couple of years, the play-in game has been something special, especially in the Western Conference, as you highlighted last couple of seasons. So I'm excited to dive into this. Thank you for having me.
I feel like this NBA season has been amazing. There's been a lot of things that we've been having to keep up with, storylines. For sure. You see a team like the LA Clippers. They started off hot, and now they're falling out of control. They're spiraling downwards.
4-6 in their last 10.
That's been tough. The Phoenix Suns came into the season with a lot of hype, and they have not been able to figure out their fourth quarter woes. And then we had some surprises. OKC being a top seed. In the East, you have Orlando Magic doing their thing as a young team. And to end off the season, we got a team in the Houston Rockets that they're surging. They're surging late.
This is pretty cool.
The playing spot is going to come at the expense of the Lakers or the Warriors, one of those two teams.
And I got to say, I think the Rockets are one of the main reasons why we're having this conversation right now. Them being right on the heels of the Golden State Warriors, the team that we've known for a majority of our basketball watching years, that's been one of the best teams in the league. The fact that the Houston Rockets, one of the younger teams, are right on their heels that can knock out the Warriors in playoff contention. I feel like it's a big reason we're talking about it right now.
Not something I expected to say a year ago, but as you guys highlighted, they're 9-1 in their last 10 games with Alper and Şengün hopefully being able to come back soon.
So looking at the NBA standings right now, let's start out east.
Okay.
With the play-in, we have the Bulls and the Hawks 9 and 10 spots, and then the Heat and the Sixers at the 7 and 8 spots. Before we get on to the Bulls and the Hawks, I want to stay with Philly for a second with the Heat because I feel like this is an interesting question that I posed to myself a couple of days ago. Why do we keep giving the Miami Heat a pass for being mediocre in the regular season?
Here he goes
because
again.
They went to the finals.
I know that they've went to the finals, but we've also seen before that they got swept in the first round by the Milwaukee Bucks.
They did.
Not every year will be a run where they go on something magical. And right now they have the 7 seed. The Sixers are the 8 seed, but the Sixers, they don't got Joel Embiid, so it makes sense why they dropped to the play-in. But the Miami Heat, do you feel like they're getting too much leeway as a team that we're just saying, they'll figure it out eventually, but there are some concerns.
I'll say this before I talk about the Miami Heat. You're a funny guy because all year long it seemed as if, hey, you're on board with the Miami Heat, but as we get closer to April and May, we're starting to see the Heat and their fourth quarter struggles and their mediocre play as of late, also a 4-6 team in their last 10. What has been a huge issue of theirs has been their offense post-All-Star break. Defensive-wise, post-All-Star break, we're talking about a top 5 defense. But offensively, they've really struggled. And I feel like that's been a surprise to me, understanding you go and you trade for Terry Rozier. You do have Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, who's been on and off the court with some injuries. But, of course, Bam Adebayo has taken another step in his game. I feel like we don't talk about the development of Bam Adebayo, how year to year he just gets little by little better and better. But again, they get a pass because they have the best head coach in basketball in Eric Spoelstra. Yeah. They have one of the biggest playoff risers in the NBA in Jimmy Butler. And we've seen them make multiple championship runs, although it didn't result in a championship. But from being one of these play-in teams last year to go to the finals, being one of the better teams in the league the year that we had the bubble, them going to the finals and falling short to the Lakers, making an ECF run the year that they lost the Game 7 where Jimmy Butler was a shot away from sending them back to the NBA finals. That's why they get so much leeway because they did this last year, and maybe we're not calling them championship contenders, but what we can say is we can still respect them as a playoff team that they can go into any series and they can be underdogs, but they can come out of there as the winner in the end.
Ultimately, the Heat get a pass for being a 7-seed right now because their formula has remained the exact same. Not too long ago, you're a huge fan of the Terry Rozier acquisition. Yeah, and between him and Tyler Hero missing a lot of time, Miami just needs a break of health. Last year, they got a huge break with Giannis getting hurt in the first round, and they beat the Bucks in 5 games. Yep. And that was an 8 seed at a negative point differential. This Heat team is frankly better than last year. You add in Jaime Jaquez. You have Duncan Robinson, who is better than Max Strus was a year ago. You add in DeLon right off the bench. And then, of course, guys like Caleb Martin, who have Caleb Martin last year was playing at the level of Jaylen Brown in that Eastern Conference Finals.
Hard to say.
So if he's able
I don't like it, but listen. If
he's able to raise to a level,
fair.
A high end starter, and the regular season he's really
that was a shot in
back
the
end
dark,
rotation player. That's the type of players that we're talking about here who routinely rise up in the postseason. Guys that are needle movers, and quite frankly, the Heat just have the formula that really has not changed the last 5 years.
But how likely is that to keep on happening, though? Like, let's be realistic.
I'm not saying they're going to the finals. All I can say is I will respect them in any series that they play.
I can agree. I can agree with that. I feel like the Heat shouldn't get just a pass. You have to show up
in terms of them being a mediocre regular season team.
I mean, let's just pull up the standings. We pull up the standings right now. You look at the Eastern Conference. The Heat are 39 and 32.
A singular game out of the 6 seed. So they might not even be in this conversation by the end of the regular season.
The weird thing about the East is I feel like it's a lot of young, up-and-coming teams in the top 6.
Agreed.
The Pacers, 41 and 32. I think we can agree the Heat are better than the Pacers. The Orlando Magic, 42 and 29.
Legitimate conversation.
The Heat are, correct. You give them the edge over the Magic. The 4th seed, I mean, there's no way the Heat are better than the Knicks.
They're not. I don't
healthy,
think they are.
There's no way.
But come playoff time,
they're better than us.
Come playoff time, anything can happen. Also, you say healthy, but that's a legitimate concern for the New York Knicks. I get Dante DiVincenzo has been awesome in the minutes that he's been taking over. And, of course, Deuce McBride.
100%.
Exactly. No Julius, and who knows about OG Anunoby, excuse me.
And then the rest of the East teams, we got the Bucks, the Celtics, and then the Cavaliers.
Those 3 teams have experience, but we still don't know if the Cavaliers
I was going to say, John, I don't know about the Cavaliers.
And this is coming for someone who's long been a huge Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell fan, but what it comes down to is he hasn't fallen off. You're reacting.
I'm sorry.
What it does come down to is that a team like Cleveland still hasn't shown that physicality to rise up in a playoff stage where, hey, look, Jared Allen and Evan Mobley still can't get pushed around. The rebounding numbers are better this year. With Miami, they are a smaller team than Cleveland, but they play a lot more physical, and that's what translates so well to May and June.
Now, the next teams that we're going to talk about are the Chicago Bulls and the Atlanta Hawks.
Let me ask you, you're taking the Heat over the Philly, though.
I would take the Heat over Philly.
Who's taking Philly without Embiid?
Without Embiid, no one. No one. The Philly legitimately can fall out of
maybe a Buddy Hield heater if he has 35 points.
Okay, not insane.
Anthony Melton goes 7 of 12 from 3. They could make it a competitive game, but
I feel you. I know what you're saying.
They need to shoot like 60%.
But if Embiid were to be in this game, different conversation. But without him, you have to be realistic.
So we got the Atlanta Hawks, and then we got the Miami Heat. What do you think about the Chicago Bulls and the Atlanta Hawks?
Battle of mid.
That is the battle of mid.
Who will prevail?
There's a part of me that just feels. You look at Chicago, they've been one of the more clutch teams in the fourth quarter. We look at DeMar DeRozan, has the second most field goals made in clutch time right behind Steph Curry. Vucevic has been quietly one of the more clutch players in the league. Kobe White, his ascension this season. It's really been great to watch, and this all happens while Zach LaVine has been injured also. Now, I still look at the Bulls and think this is still a franchise that has to pick a direction, but for this conversation at hand, without Trae Young, not understanding the status of Trae Young come playing time, I feel like I have to lean the Bulls. They just have a little bit more talent on that side, a little bit more of consistent offense, consistent defense, definitely than the Atlanta Hawks. But if Trae Young were to be in this game, then you have to look at that side where Trae lives for these moments. We've seen him in these types of games, and he's been able to overcome.
A good example.
Oh, you're kidding me? For sure. But I feel like looking here, I would have to lean Bulls where we currently stand.
I would lean Bulls as well because Trae is likely going to be out. But I got to be honest, this is just like the bubble where I don't think either of these two teams deserve to be in the play-in tournament.
Wow.
And when we look at this tournament, I think it's got to be good teams that are remotely close to the A seed. Mm-hmm. They're both under 500. And if they're in the Western Conference, they'd be 11 and 12 opposed to 9 and 10. So I just feel like this is a matchup that we don't need to see. Mm-hmm. We're going to unfortunately have to see it. And I think Chicago just has a lot more firepower offensively.
If I'm not mistaken, Trae Young is out for the season, right?
It's not out for the season, signed and sealed.
He's been working on the basic things you would do after undergoing surgery to repair a torn collateral ligament.
Yep. But for the most part, he's probably not going to come back.
It's a strong chance, correct.
And if he does,
they just haven't ruled it out 100%. Yeah. You're right. He's not going to be.
You know, for me, I feel like, listen, you hit the nail on the head. The East is not as good as the West.
Nowhere near.
And I feel like that's the big Tom takeaway that you get when you talk about the play-in and what we've seen year to year. The East has always been a step behind the Western Conference. The Western Conference play-in has always been more entertaining, and that's dating back to the bubble days when it first started.
Yep, for sure.
But between the Hawks and the Bulls, I understand the Bulls have been a clutch team, but I feel like that's because they're in a lot of close games, which is not the best thing in the world.
Don't disagree.
The Atlanta Hawks, though, I mean, DeJounte Murray, he's playing really well.
He's having his best season.
He's been on a heater.
Best season, John.
And
elaborate on that.
But I think it's just coming down to him making his most shots. 37% from three. His mid-range is
as an offensive player, you could argue this is his best season.
Yes, without a doubt, because he's been a lot more efficient as a point guard.
For sure.
If Trey's out the lineup, you want DeJounte to hit a high level of his jumpers, because that's his game. His game's no longer being this high-volume driver. It's someone who is an isolation scorer. It's someone who's going to go one-on-one and really look to attack from the perimeter. So DeJounte is playing quite well. He's raising his trade value, which is nice to see. But again, with the Hawks, it's not just that Trey's out. AJ Griffin is out. Jalen Johnson, their third best player,
for sure.
Second best player in many games is out. And yeah, I think he is their second best player.
I'm with you.
And so is Sadiq Bey. So, I mean, Atlanta's really missing a large part of the rotation. It's going to make it tough for them to move out of this spot here.
I don't feel like the Hawks are that bad of a team.
They're not.
Their struggles all season long have kind of made me question what's going on there. Because you see that, I mean, with DeJounte's playing and running the point, the team looks good. They're in a lot of games.
Top 10 offense.
Exactly.
They're an impressively mid team, I would say.
Okay.
I haven't quite seen a team this mid in quite some time.
That's fair.
Okay.
That's fair.
Now, in the Western Conference, this is where things are going to get interesting. We have the Lakers and the Warriors. The Lakers at the 9th seed, the Warriors at the 10th seed. I think as of right now, we can say clearly there is one team that's better amongst these two.
It's the Los Angeles Lakers. All right,
Lakers.
just glad we're on the same page. You like to surprise me.
That statement right there pierced my heart a little bit as I was saying it. But there's a team on the rise. They're red hot. It's the Houston Rockets. They're on a 9-game win streak. They've had a favorable schedule. Şengün has been out. Jalen Green has been shooting lights out. He's not missing right now. And they are just, a half game behind the Warriors?
Half game. 0.5.
I feel like we got to start there. Are the Rockets making a plan? I mean, you before the season thought the Rockets were going to make a plan.
I had them as a playing team.
Okay.
And this was before Alperen Şengün's injury, who it seems like it's not ruled out that he's going to be done for the season. But without Alperen, what the Rockets would need to move into that 10 spot is Jalen Green maintain his recent play as one of the most, if not the most improved player of the season. But it's only a 2.5, 3-week sample of him playing at what's been an elite level as a scorer.
Yeah.
If Jalen Green can maintain this pace, making more shots than ever before, showing more rhythm than ever before, the Rockets can take that spot from the Warriors. But I really just don't know if it's sustainable because of the fact it's going to eventually cool down the three-point shooting. And without Alperen, when games get tight in the half court, I don't think Houston's going to be able to kind of continue at this current pace they're on. He's
been taking a large amount of threes, but like you mentioned, he's been hitting them at a very efficient clip. Now, the hope is that you can keep that volume, but at the same time, let's say you're not as hot from three-point land. You can't just go ice cold where we kind of saw last night in the first half where he was 3 for 13 at one point, did finish the game, if I'm not mistaken, 9 for 26. But it's kind of just keeping that consistency and that trust in your game that inevitably you will find yours. Don't have it to the point where it gets to the detriment of your team, where last night a lot of the guys were struggling outside of Amen Thompson, but you saw Fred struggle. And I still look at what's going on with Houston, a very defensively sound team, starting to clean up things on the road. That was a huge problem of theirs early on in the season, that they're this amazing away team, but they struggle on the road. They have some solid wins recently on the road. So now I look at the Golden State Warriors, and my issue with them is coaching, rotations, and secondary scorers for the Golden State Warriors. You can't tell me the number 2 option for the Golden State Warriors right now because simply they don't have one on a consistent basis. And with Steve Kerr, his rotations have been questionable. He keeps Chris Paul out there well too long than he needs to. And the bigger issue is that he keeps Steph Curry on the bench a little longer than what you need to. So I look at the Golden State Warriors and I just think that they don't have a trait that they are great to elite at. They've just been hovering around mediocrity since post All-Star break. And of course, you do have a top 5 at worst, top 6 player in the world in Steph Curry still. But understanding that it just takes a little bit more than that when you're the Golden State Warriors, when Klay Thompson's not hitting his shots, Andrew Wiggins isn't hitting his shots. These role players simply are not just doing their job. It becomes very difficult on, of course, the main guy, Steph Curry. But I do look at it as a legitimate possibility that the Warriors do miss the play-in tournament and the Rockets sneak up on them, where there is a matchup between the Rockets and Golden State near the end of the season that could end up being the deciding game.
I have a tough time believing the Rockets going to make the play-in. As much as I want to believe in them, Jalen Green's hot shooting. I'm not sure how long it's going to continue. He's playing lights out right now. And no other month has he been this hot from three.
JG Hype Train, don't sleep, bro.
You look at the Rockets' schedule, the win streak against the Blazers, the Jazz. The Bulls are a good win.
For sure.
The Wizards, the Cavaliers, good win.
Kings are on there.
The
Suns
Wizards,
are on there.
the Spurs. They
again.
beat the Kings. They beat the Blazers. I mean, this win streak has not been all that impressive.
The Suns are on there, if I'm not mistaken, too.
That was before the start of the win streak.
It was they beat the Suns, lost the game, and then they went back on this hot streak.
Listen, I think there are some good wins in here. Moving forward, they're going to face the Thunder tomorrow. Then you face the Mavericks on Sunday, and the Mavericks. You know what, that boy Luka Doncic, he's going to do what he does. They face the Timberwolves on the road. Then they face the Warriors April 4th. So you have in 4 of the next 5 games, you're facing the Thunder, the Mavericks, the Timberwolves, and the Warriors.
We're going to see what they're made of.
You can go 1-4 in that stretch.
Ooh. Then you've got
They could.
Then you've got right after Miami, Dallas, and Orlando. So these 7 of the next 8 games are against playoff caliber teams.
Yes. So we're going to. I'm not saying they can't do it, but I'm saying these next couple of games, this 2-week stretch, we're going to see what the Rockets are.
I don't disagree.
Are you a team that you were just feasting on teams that were bottom dwellers, or are you a legitimate team that deserves to be in that final playing spot? The Houston Rockets. It's funny because on this win streak, it has not been a balanced attack. Their defense hasn't been good. It's just their offense has been so nuclear and so great that it negates any negative thing they were doing on defense.
And the biggest difference to me is that Ime Udoka has really gotten his team to spread the ball out.
I agree with that.
And opening up the floor with a lot of ball movement. And Fred VanVleet's a huge component. Dylan Brooks has played very well on both sides, even if their defense has taken a step back from where it currently sits at number 7. But the offensive connectivity that they've lacked the last 3 years, looking like an AAU team, Ime Udoka has proven himself to be a top 3 coach this year because of the fact he was able to take ball movement that was the worst in the NBA. He's made some of the best. You watch how well the ball moves. It's never sticking anymore. And I think that's a testament to the leadership and structure that's been provided.
So I'm pretty sure that when it comes to their starting lineup, that's the defensive rating that hasn't been the best. I'll double check that in a bit. But the defense rating over the last 9 games, according to StatMuse, is 111.1. Okay. So that's good overall as a team. So probably as a starting lineup, their defense really hasn't been that good. But overall as a team, they've been good. I think the Lakers are going to get one of these spots, though. It's really going to – if the Rockets get in, it's going to come at the expense of the Golden State Warriors.
Most definitely.
But if the Warriors are healthy, that's going to be hard to do. And if the Rockets do overtake them, they deserve a lot of credit.
Especially, you just listed off the schedule. If they make it, they 100% earned it. They played some of the better teams in the league. Forget about just in the conference, in the league. And being this young and showing this much so early – it also doesn't speak to what's going on with the young core, the young foundation of the Rockets, but the impact of Ime Udoka. Did it once with the Celtics, now doing it again with the Houston Rockets.
Turnaround's like no other.
He's really going to start being in legitimate top 5 head coach discussions.
He's already cemented himself.
I'm fine with that, John.
They won 22 games last year.
For sure.
And this year
he's
they're
better
at
than Tom
35.
Thibodeau, John?
Without a doubt.
I'm fine with that.
I would take Ime Udoka.
That's ridiculous.
I know. I get it.
I get it. That's ridiculous.
Listen,
why?
You would not take Tibbs over
Joel, first year in Boston, they go from being a pretty
under 500
team.
They were under 500 in fall.
The greatest turnaround midseason.
They were under 500 not because they lacked talent. Being under 500 was viewed as underwhelming.
He did something Brad Stevens could never.
Exactly.
Taking that team to the finals in his first year.
He was a locker room presence.
That was a more mature team.
That was their best season.
He had a more mature team.
But that started because of Ime. Ime made all of them take a look in the mirror and identify their role on the team.
I'm not trying to discredit Ime, but this
is...
No,
you are. Tom Thibodeau is not on his level, and you know he's not on his level.
Oh my goodness.
He's not.
Quiet,
Yo, John,
you're going to get me aggravated. You're going to get me aggravated.
I'm telling you right now.
Tom Thibodeau, when
Tom
he went
Thibodeau's
to...
had a good season.
I think Tom Thibodeau is one of the more underappreciated head coaches.
Can you let me speak?
He's not top 3.
Holy moly. When
Not
he
top
was
3.
on the Celtics, defensive coordinator, won a championship there, right? He goes to the Chicago Bulls. They win 60 games. Derrick Rose is the youngest MVP in NBA history. Mm-hmm. And then Derrick Rose tears his knee up, and we were never able to see the Bulls maximize.
He was a Derrick Rose
Tom Thibodeau, Even when Derrick Rose was not healthy, Joakim Noah was a top 5 MVP candidate in Chicago, and they had one of the top seats. Then Tom Thibodeau, after his stint with the Bulls ends, mind you, we cannot discredit what he did with Jimmy Butler either. We cannot discredit that. He goes to Minnesota, and Minnesota makes the playoffs for the first time in 10 plus years. And then he comes to the Knicks, and he's turned around my franchise in a way that I've never seen.
Now he's
the Knicks have been one of the most dysfunctional teams of the 2000s, post 2000s, and the only reason why we are relevant right now is because of Tom Thibodeau.
Only? Relax.
He's the start of it. He's the start of it. He's the start of it.
The only reason was nuts.
Of course, Jalen Brunson. I'm not going to discredit him, but you look at Tim.
Your general manager,
Leon Rose. No,
has he not done an amazing job?
Of course,
wonderful job.
My fault. I went too extreme.
Yes.
But because I'm defending Tom Thibodeau
I respect
right now.
it.
But Tom Thibodeau.
Let's hear it.
This year, how many injuries have the Knicks dealt with?
A lot.
And where are we in the standings right now? We the 4th seed?
Top 4.
Come on, John. Put some respect on Tom Thibodeau.
This is what I'm trying to say to you.
A coach with 2 years of coaching?
What did we come into? What did we come into the season thinking about the Houston Rockets?
He went to the finals
team?
in his first year as a coach. No, now I'm kind of aggravated.
He was
Tom Thibodeau is an amazing floor raiser, but he's had zero playoff success because of the fact he's not a ceiling raiser. Ime Udoka is a floor raiser, and he's a ceiling raiser, and that is great.
He's right.
It doesn't take long to point out his first year as a head coach.
It's okay to say he's right.
Boston Celtics to the NBA Finals. And if Jason Tatum was not taken out of the series, they beat the Warriors and won a championship.
I want you guys to answer this question honestly.
All right.
And I'm going to take out this Lakers-Warriors graphic off the screen for you guys because we getting into a heated conversation and battle. Ime Udoka got the Celtics, right?
For sure.
He turned them around. He's going to get credit for that.
He should.
Did we not view that team as a team that could go to the finals? They got the talent to go to the finals?
No.
Before the season?
That year?
2022? They had just been eliminated in the first round of the playoffs the year before. No one thought they were a top 2 team.
Jaylen Brown was hurt.
No.
Yes.
Jaylen Brown was hurt. They didn't have the second best player.
Too.
The year before, they went to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Nobody had them in the top 2.
They weren't finals teams.
Everybody
Milwaukee just came off the championship
to go.
And the Miami Heat.
Did they have the talent?
They were clearly viewed in that second tier below the Bucks.
Now let me ask you something.
Clearly viewed below.
Weren't they 19 and 21 at one point in that season?
They were under 500 at the middle point of the season.
Has Tom Thibodeau ever in his coaching career, head coaching career, had a team that you say that team is talented enough to go to the finals?
2011, Derrick Rose MVP season, only time.
And who did they lose to, John?
In that year?
Who did they lose to?
They lost to LeBron.
When Derrick Rose got injured?
Lost to LeBron.
No, he didn't get injured that year.
That was 2012.
2012. They lost. He got hurt in the first round. Correct.
Yeah.
No,
where did they lose?
So they lost to the Heat in 5 or 6.
It was 5 games.
Against who? LeBron, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade when it was at their best.
5 games.
When it was at their best. It's 5 games, but that team,
sure.
It wasn't close.
LeBron James started to guard Derrick Rose, and then we saw things get serious in that series.
No shit.
So you're telling me Tom Thibodeau, he has never had a team that was talented enough to go to the NBA Finals, and yet here you are talking about a ceiling raiser. How do we know what the ceiling can be when he's never had a team that ceiling was an NBA Finals?
Let me ask you about that Minnesota team. Did it not have the talent to actually do something?
Similar talent level to that Boston team.
Karl-Anthony Towns, Jimmy Butler.
They had the talent to do something. What derailed their season was they were a top 5 seed in the West, and then Jimmy Butler got hurt, and they dropped. And the final game of the season versus the Denver Nuggets to get into the playoffs, they ended up beating them, and they got into the playoffs. And then they faced the Rockets in the first round. Just a terrible matchup. And Cat didn't play. And then after that, Jimmy Butler just wasn't viable in Minnesota as a whole.
You're right. You want to know what it comes down to for me? It's not that Ime Udoka has inherited star players made them better. It's that he's maximized each and every single role player he has ever coached. Whether it was Robert Williams and Daniel Tice when Rob Will tore his meniscus in the 2022 playoffs, to Derek White when Derek White came in, was wonderful in the defensive end. And now you look at Houston, with the exception of Jock Landale, who's played a little bit better recently, he has maximized each and every single rotation player. With Tom Thibodeau in the postseason, I've seen his players collapse because oftentimes there's no scheme or philosophy or creativity offensively.
Against the
I
Hawks,
look at his role players who quite frankly, are not maximized or elevated.
You're kind of right. The role players for John. To be fair,
look at the 2021.
Look at 2021 versus the Hawks.
I'm sorry, John. This is a crazy statement.
R.J. Barrett, who was pretty efficient in the regular season. Just
no one
played
well in
shoot
that series outside
ball.
Derrick Rose and the Knicks.
And then the other star player, Julius Randle, All NBA second team, was terrible.
Wait,
the star players were the reason why they didn't win.
That's fair.
Alfred Payne was the starting point guard of the team, and we still made the playoffs. Alfred Payne, Reggie Bullock, R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle, and Mitch was hurt for that series. Alec Burks off the bench.
You still had a 50-50 chance to win that series.
This doesn't make sense to me because this
Quentin
year...
Grimes, what did he do last year in the postseason?
Quentin Grimes...
Nothing.
That's on him.
What did he do last year in the postseason?
That's on him.
Yes. How about basically every other player off that bench in those 2 playoff runs?
They didn't play well, but how is that on Tibbs? I'm looking this year, what Tibbs is doing. Has Deuce McBride not become one of the best rotational point guards in the league?
Dante DiVincenzo.
Who the hell are you giving credit for that? Deuce McBride or Tom Thibodeau?
Tibbs had him on the bench for quite some time. I'd say both. Combination of opportunity.
Is this not Dante DiVincenzo's best season?
By far.
Who's coaching him?
That's also in due parts of not just coaching, but opportunity. Correct.
Where has Isaiah Hartenstein been his best?
New York, he's got the most opportunity.
You can talk about Isaiah Hartenstein had been on the bench, but waiting behind Mitch Robinson.
He also has gotten better with the Knicks. He's gotten progressively better.
He's gotten more time to develop.
So I'm looking at Deuce McBride, Dante DiVincenzo,
we have to wrap this up.
Isaiah Hartenstein. Yes. All of those guys have gotten better under Tibbs. And I'm not even mentioning Jalen Brunson became an All-NBA player under Tibbs.
Yeah.
And you could say it was opportunity, but I thought he would be an all-star where he is now. Mm-hmm. Tibbs is empowering him to be that. What about Precious Achiuwa? He's playing so much better with the Knicks than the Raptors.
Julius Randle had went from being a pretty solid player on the Pelicans.
So I'm not going to take this narrative
on the Knicks
that Tom Thibodeau doesn't elevate his players because he does.
In the postseason, the regular season is a different story to me. I think he's a great regular season coach, one of the best in the NBA. In the playoffs, would not take him.
So Ime Udoka didn't elevate Jason Tatum in the playoffs and the finals. That was Ime's fault.
Whoa. Well, he kind of did.
I never criticized.
Ime did mess up.
I never criticized
He played way too much drop.
No, but I'm saying Jason Tatum playing bad in the inefficient with
you can talk about Tatum, but we can also talk about Ime not adjusting and playing
saying the coach is the reason.
I'm not criticizing
players playing bad
for Julius Randle playing poorly. The same way I'm not criticizing Ime for Jason Tatum.
So you're criticizing Tibbs for Emmanuel Quickley playing bad and Quentin Grimes.
For not elevating his rotational pieces the way Udoka has in 2 different locations.
Okay, I don't.
You don't have a rebuttal, which is why you're just going to say okay.
Because it just doesn't make sense.
It makes plenty of sense.
It doesn't make sense.
Robert Williams is a great example of this, and so is Daniel Tice. All those players in the Celtics.
Why haven't you said Marcus Smart? Say Marcus Smart. He won literally DPOY.
He was already a great defensive player.
He was, but he went to a whole new level.
On to the last play-in spot. The Mavericks and the Phoenix Suns fighting for that 7th spot. That's going to be the first matchup as it stands right now. It's as simple as this, fellas. The Mavericks ain't going to be the 7th seed. They're going to be the 6th seed or the 5th seed when it's all said and done. But this matchup for me is the Mavericks. The Mavericks are a team that when they're healthy, they win at a top 4 seed pace. And they're a dangerous dark horse. They're the number 1 dark horse in the Western Conference right now.
That's funny. They're just not the New Orleans Pelicans. However, I will say in this matchup, I don't like the Suns because their fourth quarter offense is the worst I've arguably ever seen, especially given the fact you have Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. You can't be 30th in net rating in the fourth quarter. Simply irresponsible. Mm-hmm. So in this matchup, I would lean the Mavericks because the more and more as the season goes on, I'm waiting for that bucket to kick where, hey, they're done being this bad fourth quarter team. Mm-hmm. They're finally realizing we have 3 great to elite scorers. Of course, you can argue 2 of the top 5 scorers in the NBA. There's no way you can keep up this poor level of play in the fourth quarter. But here we are in March, and we're having the same conversations. I feel like in this situation, it would be a coin flip out of respect for the talent of the Suns. But at the same time, how can I trust what they've shown me all year long, which is terrible clutch play?
That's a great point. It's a very ironic matchup because it reminds me of when these 2 teams matched up in Game 7 of 2022. It could go one of 2 ways. And I don't think it'd be a super close game because these are 2 of the most volatile offenses in the NBA. The Suns, on one hand, had the best big 3, the most skilled big 3. And I don't think the Mavericks can stop them at their best. Their defensive rating is a 117 their last 15 games. But on the flip side, Phoenix does not have someone to guard Luka and Kyrie right now. So to me, it comes down to which offense plays better and which one comes to play. And I think that's the Phoenix Suns. I expect the Phoenix Suns in a do-or-die elimination game with Devin Booker in that playoff crucible to finally get some redemption against Luka Doncic. I feel like it's time.
Is he going to prove that he's one of them ones?
We'll talk about that another time. I think the Phoenix Suns have more offensive firepower, and I'm going to bank on them changing the narrative just a little bit and gain a bit of redemption on the Mavericks they face off in that 7-8
I like
matchup.
that. I like that a lot, actually.
Well, thankfully, Mavericks ain't going to be in this position. We know what the Mavericks, we know where they're going to be.
Good luck, because the Kings have been one of the better teams recently, too.
It might be the Kings or the Pelicans if they fall off without Brandon Ingram. It really depends. I think the Mavericks are going to be a locked-in top 6 seed, though, 100%.
They're not falling off. We've seen what the Pelicans can do without Brandon Ingram one time before already.
Well, falling off is not a huge statement because
right now they're the 4th seed.
Falling off
because the Clippers are falling off. Let's talk about them. Talk about the Clippers who could potentially keep falling.
They could. You know, all I'm saying is that the Mavericks going to be a top 6 seed.
Good luck, brother.
And you know, I know that's your worst nightmare.
That's not my worst nightmare. It's not a nightmare of mine because it's not going to be a reality. So their defense is terrible.
Let's give our predictions, final predictions. So Lakers Warriors matchup, who wins?
I got Los Angeles, so the clearly better team with a better identity.
No doubt in my mind, Los Angeles.
I got the Lakers. Mavericks and Suns.
Mavericks, they've got something where they can blow out this Suns team the way they did in 2022. But I'm going with Phoenix, who has more firepower, and I'm expecting D-Book to finally get some redemption.
Man, it's just tough to not just trust what I've seen all season long. I think the Suns definitely have a chance in this game, but I feel like in the big moments, Luka will rise to that occasion.
I got the Mavericks in this one, which means that the game for the 8th seed for you will be the Mavericks and Lakers.
That's not a
for
question.
us. It will be the Suns and the Lakers.
I'll tell you what, Mavericks versus Lakers. I definitely feel comfortable in that one for the Lakers. Mm-hmm. Suns versus Lakers.
That's that's the worst matchup.
Suns definitely have played better against us than them. Although we do have the season record, we've played them a lot when they haven't had the big three. Yeah. I would still take my Lakers in a winner go home because we've seen them do it multiple seasons in a row now. Well, let me not say in a row, but 2 of the last 3 seasons, and they've been able to still clinch a playoff spot.
If the Lakers play the Mavericks, my question would be who's guarding Luka. I would take the Mavericks.
I'm going with the Suns, so I think the final 2 spots,
what would he do?
The Mavs and Suns. Okay. Going on to the Eastern Conference, Heat and Sixers.
I'm going with the Heat, especially with not a healthy Embiid.
Same exact way. Miami's going to blow them out.
Bulls and Hawks.
Am I being sold on the Hawks? I might be.
I'm going to go with the Bulls.
Okay, I respect it.
I guess I'll take Chicago because Atlanta is missing
their
2 best players.
I'll stay consistent. So. I will go with Chicago, but Jalen Johnson probably will be back. It is an ankle injury. Okay. He probably will be back if I had to guess. But I will go with the Bulls because they've just been a little bit more consistent.
So the AC matchup is going to be the Sixers against the Bulls or Hawks. Who do you got there?
I would take the Bulls and or the Hawks over the Sixers.
I would take the Sixers versus Bulls. Was that the question? I would take the Chicago Bulls over Philadelphia.
I'm going with the Sixers. I think Embiid makes a return if things get that dire.
Opens up the floor a little bit for his teammates to go off.
And then he could open all that to be the 8th seed to play the Boston Celtics in the first round.
If Joel Embiid's healthy,
hey. If Embiid wants
Celtics own the Sixers.
If Joel Embiid's healthy, hey.
I don't think he's going to be, but if he wants to play through it, he'd open up the floor for Tyrese a lot.
No, he would. And that's going to do it for this BR stream brought to you by Pick a Side. If you guys stayed through the entire thing, thank you for watching. Those were our NBA play-in predictions. We'll see you guys next time.